Hey everybody, welcome. How you doing? I did it. I went to China. Goddamn straight I did. I needed to find out who picks the fortune cookies, all right? I needed to lay that down and then I could really go on with my life. So I had to go to China. I did. I went to China. I did it. I fucking did it. Thanks for joining me, folks. I'm going to get into this. Why was I in China? What was it like? All of those things. I'm going to be getting into that in just a minute. Please take a second to click subscribe, click follow, click share, leave a comment. I'm asking you all. You see, sometimes I'm the Southern in me, Richmond, Virginia, born and raised. That's the hand signal. Yeah. Uh, Sometimes I start to say y'all and then I try and correct it. So it becomes you all. Uh, I'm asking y'all, I'll just stick with y'all. I'm asking y'all in the comment thread, what is the real reason that the US hates China now and maligns and attacks and propagandizes against China now? What is the real reason? Let me know what you think. I'm also taking a poll, which I'll give you the results towards the end of this episode on Twitter. I'm taking a poll on Twitter at Lee Camp. So I'll tell you what people are saying over there. But yeah, I'm going to get into this and I got photos for you. I got all kinds of shit. I'm going to show you some clips from some of the speeches there. So, all right, let's start off with why I was in China. They wanted me to come over and inspect their weather balloons because apparently their weather balloons are heavily armed and are attacking people, and so they wanted me to come check it out. I'm a weather balloon expert, so I headed over there. No, actually, I was invited to speak at the Second International Forum on Democracy. This year was called Shared Human Values, and it was put on by a combination of China Media Group, which owns or was the parent company of CGTN, which many of you may know. They're equivalent to the BBC of China, and also put on by the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Other people there that spoke at the forum. It was in Beijing, by the way. China is a rather tiny little country. So when I say I was in China, where was I? Oh, just China. Just hashtag China. It was in Beijing. Other speakers at the conference include, and some of them are standing on that stage right there. But I'm going to play a clip from the president of the Socialist Party of Zambia. I'm also going to play a clip from my friend and yours, George Galloway. Most of you know George Galloway from his hugely popular talk show, but he also was a 6-term member of parliament in Britain until they kicked him out for being against the Iraq War. You can't be against the Iraq War. That's really pivotal. When the empire, and I include Britain in that, is going to kill 1 million people, 99.9% of them innocent, and innocent civilians, then you got to support that. You got to be for it, or else they will kick you right the fuck out of parliament. Anyway, so George Galloway was speaking. Also on that stage, as that you can see right there, is I believe a socialist senator from Pakistan. Also, one of the heads of CGTN is up there, and some others. Other speakers included I'm going to show you photos of some of them, but the former Prime Minister of Japan, the former Prime Minister of Thailand, Columbia University professor Jeffrey Sachs. He's a hugely popular and well-known professor at Columbia. All of those people speaking. Also Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report, and those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. So I was also asked to give a little speech. So I did that. And let's see, shall we start off? Let's start off with, before I get into what I saw in China, what is different from the propaganda that we get, what is not so great about China. Oh my God, can I do both? Can someone do both? Can there be nuance? Can there be good and bad things about China? No, never. Only one thing. That's what you get to believe nowadays. So I'm going to show, before I get into that stuff, I'm going to show a little bit of a speech. Let's start with George Galloway's. I'm just going to show a minute of it, and I'm going to play it a little fast because I don't want to make you all sit there all day. And people, you know, when they're giving a speech at a forum, they speak a little slower for everybody. Also, there was a lot of multilingual people there, you know, a lot of languages going on. But all right, here's a little George Galloway.
To what extent is our democracy superior to yours? Because we have the form of elections. His Excellency, the former Prime Minister of Thailand, said there was increasing polarization in Western democracies. But I beg to differ. Actually, in Western democracies, we have two cheeks of the same backside, two sides of the same coin. Sure, you can vote for this party or that party, but both parties stand for the same thing, have the same program, essentially, of neoliberal economics and imperialism abroad. What kind of choice is that? As I heard a wise man, Chinese man, say on television, in China, you cannot change the party, but you can change the policies. In Western democracies, you can change the party, but you cannot change the policies. It's 25 years since I last spoke in Beijing.
All right, there was a little bit of, he goes off onto a story about something about the prime minister being in the audience when he last spoke or something like that. Anyway, there's a little bit of George Galloway. And he's got some great points there that in China, policies will change. I mean, people point to the lockdown protests that happened in China. They were far smaller than the U.S. and Western media pretended they were, but they did exist. There was anti-lockdown protests. And guess what? When there started being legit protests in China, China stopped their lockdown. So the Western media is pointing to that as, look, everybody in China hates China because there's protests. Actually, there's protests probably in every country around the world, or most of them. Maybe not in Seychelles. No, I don't know, but there's probably protests. You know, in fucking Guadeloupe, they're throwing coconuts at the prime minister. No, there's probably protests in every country. The question is, how much do how much are the leaders and the politicians and the people in office, both in municipalities, in smaller areas, and at what we call the federal level, but the top level, how much do they actually listen to the people? In this case, this is actually an example where you can say, oh, the people in China, at least a portion of them, a rather small portion if you're looking at per capita, but a portion of them got upset enough about the long-term lockdowns, like 3 years of lockdowns or whatever, 2.5 maybe, and protested. And China changed their policy. So that actually speaks to people having an impact. Anyway, I think Galloway has a great point there that in China, you can't change the party, but you can some of the time change the policy. In the U.S., and he's speaking in terms of Britain, you can change the party. You're just never changing the policies. You just have the same fucking policies from from a different group of master villains that are all owned by the same corporate entities. We have inverted totalitarianism ruled by the anonymous corporate state. And we pretend as if we have democracy. We act as if we have democracy. We run around saying we have democracy. We fucking don't. All right? We don't have democracy. We don't have a republic. These people do not represent us. And, you know, I've given many a rant on that, so I'll cut this one short. But all right. So I thought I'd show you a little of that. And I'll show you a little bit of another speech in a few moments. But let's get to some of the photos I took, and I will admit I'm no photographer, and I also tend to forget to take photos when I'm in a place because I prefer to just like experience it with my brain, but it's not good for journalism per se, to just experience with one's brain. Let's see here. But I also want to make the point that I am not trying throughout the rest of this. I am not trying to speak for all of China. I didn't see all of China. I saw a tiny little portion of Beijing, which has 21 million people in it. I didn't speak to all 21 million. I spoke to max. I'm talking max. I spoke to 19 million people. Okay. Absolute max. Not probably more like 18.5 million people is all I had time for. I was there for like 4 days. I had to buckle down. That's like a person every half a second. And that was the length of time. It's actually probably far less than half a second, but I had to just plow through there. Anyway, so I can't speak for any Chinese people. I'm not trying to. I'm giving you my impressions of what I saw and experienced, what was a surprise to me, what wasn't a surprise. And some of these things I'm saying, I know many of you are going to be like, fucking chorus. Why are you acting? Why are you even bothering telling us that? But there are people out there that literally think China is just like dudes with rickshaws. Like they have no idea. Like, so I was taking notes and some things I wanted to mention. And one of them is that China is a very modern country, especially Beijing. So, and I realize that many of you are going, yeah, of course it's a modern country, Lee. They have better technology than us on a lot of things. But the reason I make a point of saying some of these things that many of you are like, of course, is because there are legit Americans that believe this shit, that believe that China is completely backwards and has no modern technology and shit like that. And so that's part of the reason that I feel the need to say that, is because the propaganda has been so effective, and we haven't even updated our insults. We haven't modernized our insults against China. So legit people think it's just thatched huts. I don't know what they think. It's crazy what your average American believes. So I'm not speaking for the average experience of the average Chinese person. You can go talk to a Chinese person if you like. I'm sure there are many online. And in fact, here's something I wanted to mention, is that most of the Chinese people that I met, and I get I wasn't meeting like the super poor, but keep in mind, because the ones I was meeting were at the forum, or they were helping out with the forum. So even if they're an usher at the forum, they're still not the poorest of the poor. However, China did something massive, which is take 850 million people out of extreme poverty over the last 20 to 30 years. 850 million people. That's over 2 Americas worth of people. They lifted them out of extreme poverty. And it was a choice by China to do that, to lift people out of extreme poverty. And they achieved it. So I just want to say that Beijing is a very modern city. It in many ways is more modern than a lot of American cities. Obviously, it has 21 million people. A lot of American cities have like 12. I was recently looking at populations of a lot of American cities. A lot of American cities, most American cities, like by far the vast majority are under 50,000 people. And Beijing has over 21 million. So there's a bit of a difference there. New York City has something like 8.5 million. Brooklyn has like 2.5 million. So just put that in perspective, just a little bit. So here are what I'm showing images right now of is just some of the buildings in downtown Beijing, fairly recently put up, like the last 10 to 15 years, I think. I think the tallest one is the CGTN building that I went into to tape George Galloway's TV show that he was filming. He was borrowing their studio. His show is not on CGTN. He was just borrowing the studio. So, but very impressive skyscrapers and an endless array of skyscrapers. Now, here is something negative that would not have showed up on a photograph, so there's no photograph of it. But especially the day I arrived, a lot of pollution. Beijing is blanketed in pollution. You've probably seen photos from when it was at its worst. It's not at its worst now, but a lot of pollution. And when I first arrived, like it looked like the sun had been blotted out, like in the Matrix, where they burn the sky or whatever it was, where the humans burn the sky, the robots burn the sky, whatever it is. That's what it looked like. Like you could not see the sun. However, I was later told that there was a rare sandstorm that actually hit Beijing. So that was not all pollution. It was probably about 50% pollution, 50% sandstorm. Anyway, but here's the thing. People would point to the pollution in Beijing or in China, and they say, look, China sucks, air pollution, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's something that we should want to, as humans, we should want that to be fixed, right? We should want there not to be pollution. We should want people not to get cancer. That's not a reason to hate China. In fact, maybe that's a reason to have empathy with Chinese people, to go, wow, that sucks. That, like, because there's a lot of pollution in the United States, right? And you've got cataclysmic pollution incidents like Palestine, Ohio. You've got stuff just like lead in the water, like Flint, Michigan, and apparently 2,000 cities across America have elevated lead levels. Lead levels that are beyond the safe limit. So when you look at that, like, yes, if it's an infrastructure thing, you can criticize the infrastructure of the country, but you should also be like, man, wouldn't it be great if they found a way to clean that up? You shouldn't like hate people for living in, like, fuck the Chinese, man. There's a lot of pollution there. That is a nonsense way to think about humanity. All right, so I wanted to show just some of the gorgeous art and architecture and everything. This is just a hotel. This is just Capitol Hotel in Beijing. Gorgeous, cultural art. And oh yeah, that's me. I realized there were no photos of me. Also, I wanted to prove that I actually was in China. It's actually, I don't know if you can tell that's actually me, but I realized when I was about to leave that I had no photos of actually me there. But by the way, what I'm standing in front of there is just a random restaurant. Might have even been out of business, but our random restaurants in the US do not look that cool. Like, they really don't. Anyway, here's some random art in the hotel, and it's just gorgeous shit. To use a technical terminology, gorgeous shit. It was everywhere. And this is not how the US portrays China. They don't say, wow, the architecture is amazing, the culture is amazing, all this stuff. Instead, they just say, tell you some awful thing about China and pretend that is it. That's all that matters. That's all you need to learn. And people also think that you can't go to countries that are enemies of the United States. Now, China wouldn't call themselves an enemy, but the US seems to call China an enemy. You can't go there or you're instantly corrupted, right? Just by the fact that you step foot in another country, that makes you corrupted. I literally had someone who emailed me who supposedly is a fan of my stuff, meaning they watch my stuff regularly. So this is not some like crazy right-winger. Email me and go, you're going to China? That's very suspect. And it's like, this is a massive country of 1.4 billion people, and everyone outside of it is never supposed to visit it. What does that achieve? Does that help us create a sustainable, better world? Does that help us create a world where people actually would learn and grow and foster a shared humanity for a future that's actually livable? Fucking no. It just creates hatred and xenophobia and propaganda. It lets propaganda foster and boil over because people don't know a country. They haven't met these. I mean, it's just unbelievable that people still think like that. You visited a country that we're told to hate? You went to Iran or Cuba? oh my God, they must have put a weather balloon in your brain, didn't they? And then now you can't think. It's just unbelievable that type of thought still goes on. Okay, so so I want to tell you this, that the thing that I did not prepare for is that every let's see, just leave it on some random image for a minute. Every US website that I use, and I'm sad to say I use all the main websites because they're just, it's the easiest, and you fall into using them when you fucking don't want to. It's like I would love to boycott Google, but then you find that they're the quickest search engine and you end up using the propagandistic bullshit. I actually do avoid Google most of the time. I use DuckDuckGo or something, but I still have, Gmail and shit like that is my main email account. And it's awful. I hate it myself. I hate it myself, and I hate myself. But anyway, all of the sites that I regularly use are banned in China. So, and I had not really planned that. I had not really thought about it. So I arrived at the hotel and can't get into Gmail, can't use Google, can't use Twitter, can't use Facebook, can't use YouTube. All of that's banned. Now, there are two ways to look at this, and I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. There is the U.S. propagandistic view of this, which is China's just blocking their people from using any of these sites because they want to suppress their people, repress their people, oppress their people, all of those things, and they're just holding their people down, and that's the whole reason that they block these sites. Then there's the Chinese government's view of things, and many Chinese people's view of things, which is China blocks these websites because these websites are legitimately, and we know they are legitimately, data mining everybody that uses them. And so China has decided we're not going to let them for free data mine and exploit our citizens. Now, data is the new currency. I mean, data is a resource much like oil now in our world. And so for a country to say it's better for our citizens to not just allow these giant pro-Western companies to data mine them makes a lot of sense. Makes a shit ton of sense. So I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think there are points to be made on both those sides. But here's the next step of the fact that you can't get into any of those websites in China. Quickly, people told me that, and I mean Chinese people, but also people that are living in China, who I became friendly with, who were at the forum. One was an American, another was Pakistani. They said everybody uses VPNs in China, and I can't speak for every Chinese person. Again, I only talked to, what did I say, 900 million? Can't remember how many I talked to, but roughly 900 million. And they said pretty much everybody they know uses VPNs. VPNs, most of you know, allow you to anonymize your location, and so therefore you can get into these sites. So once I was able to get, and I do use a VPN, but the one I had wasn't good enough, and so once I had a effective VPN, I was able to get into those sites. So China's not really able to block you 100%. It just means you got to get a VPN to get to these sites. So anyway, that's something that I think a lot of people don't know, and I was not ready for. All right, so, I just like this. So this is Google Translate, and where you can, if anybody's ever used Google Translate, you can just hold your phone up over something, and it'll just translate it on the screen. So this was inside a bathroom, and I just like that it said, please use in a civilized manner. Now, here's the thing. If you are someone who was not going to use the bathroom in a civilized manner, if you were going in there to, hump the toilet bowl, or spell your name in fecal matter on the wall, then something tells me this plaque is not really going to make a difference. Like, I just feel like, are there a lot of guys half through rubbing their shit on the walls, and then they see the plaque and go, oh, Oh, God. Oh, damn it. I didn't know there was a, oh, no. Anyway, so I like that plaque. So this is the former Prime Minister of Japan, I believe, speaking at the forum. This is Jeffrey Sachs, the Columbia professor, speaking. George Galloway again. More gorgeous ponds and rock gardens. This is a like 1,000-year-old, I think over 1,000-year-old Buddhist temple. Someone in the comment thread I can see is asking if they have glory holes in China. I did not verify. I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of glory holes in China. Let's hope they're not banned there. This this just shows how many people there are. This is an intersection. Literally, the people standing there and the cars are just sitting in the middle of the intersection, which seems to be a bit of a cultural difference between us. And I know I've seen photos and stuff. I know it's similar in India and many other countries where you will just have there's just millions of cars and people, and everybody's just everywhere. There's like buses parked on sidewalks and people in bicycles on roofs. It's just with that many people, you cannot not have millions standing in an intersection. But also, I think the other reason I like this photo is kind of speaks to how afraid people are of police, traffic cops, whatever in China. In the US, people stop on a dime at most, red lights and things like that because A, we don't want to get pulled over by the cops, but B, our cops tend to shoot people. They tend to shoot a lot of people. Like loads more than most countries. And so people are far more afraid, I think, of our cops, at least from what I saw, than in China. Now, that doesn't mean that, there aren't freedoms in the United States that we appreciate, but I don't think, I'm not saying there aren't, I know there's a lot of prisoners in China. People are arrested, people are locked up. So I'm not denying that. But also, I talked to some people about this. They seem far less afraid of their cops. And I think it's mainly because their cops don't generally kill people for random reasons. Whereas in the US, it's like, so this was a record year last year with over 1,200 people murdered by police in the US. By the way, just for perspective, Icelandic police have killed one person since Iceland began. Since Iceland started, they've killed one person. The US, they kill one person in the first 30 seconds of every year. Anyway, over 1,200 people killed by police last year, and that is actually less than half of the real number because a large-scale study found that over half, 55% actually, of deaths that are actually caused by police are written down and reported as caused by police. Instead, they're written down as, heart failure or asphyxiation or whatever, and they're never even written down as caused by police. So the true number of people murdered by police in the U.S. every year is around 2,400, double what we're told. This is just some cool art. Weird melty metal. This is, I believe they got this from T2 in Terminator 2. This the T1000 it was called, right? I believe this actually is a T1000 that's taking a nap. For any of you that got that reference, thank you very much. And you'll notice that, and again, I want to reiterate that China is a modern country. You'll notice that on one side you can't see it, but on the left here is Starbucks. On the right is a WeWork, which there's no more. I mean, there are some more, but right near the top of capitalist bullshit entities was WeWork. WeWork was literally just a guy who was out of his mind saying, we have office space that you can use. And somehow he talked his way into pretending that was a multi-billion-dollar scheme that then all collapsed when people realized that it was just office space. And And anyway, just hilarious to see, like, you have the biggest capitalist entities, Starbucks, WeWork, and this is supposedly the big, dark, evil China, right? Yet all of our big capitalist entities are huge in China, are very prevalent in China. Shell has a massive prevalence. You have I mean, McDonald's, you have most of the cars on the road are American cars. What were some of the other ones? I mean, you just see large American corporate entities everywhere. And again, this is like showing that the bullshit propaganda is meant for us. It's not meant for the corporate entities. And of course, everyone in the US knows that all of our shit is made by China. So you look inside your shirt and it says China on it. It's the level of propaganda that's going on right now is just unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. This is just a random restaurant. I didn't sit at that table, but I just thought it looked cool. But I do love that, like, a random restaurant is, pretty gorgeous and nice cultural eccentricities. Although I guess I view them as eccentricities. Everybody in China probably views them as quite normal. I don't remember what that was, but this is just kind of downtown fun area Beijing. I took a photo of the liquor at this bar because I wanted people to see that they even have all of the all of the good liquors. I want people to realize that China is not like mud huts. This is like they had Lafroig, Macallan's 12. That's some real shit. This is just a regular bar. Okay. So this is outside of the National Museum, the National Palace Museum. The palace is, of course, also called the Forbidden City. It is the size of a small city, massive, and I could not get in to the Forbidden City. I'll tell you why in a moment. But as you walk towards it, you'll see a bunch of children, some adults, in the like traditional Chinese emperor robes and things, a bunch of little shops that cater to dressing people up in these traditional robes and everything. And a child in this outfit is fucking adorable. I don't think you could deny that, but these robes are pretty incredible. And the outfits that people dress in. This is again right outside the old palace. Obviously, China no longer a monarchy. Oh, hold on. All right. I'll come back to the talk about the palace because these photos are slightly out of order. This I was just showing some of the security, and there is so here's a part I told you I give both sides. There is a lot of security in the area of Beijing where I was staying. However, I was also staying. I mean, they put me up at the hotel where the forum was, Capitol Hotel. But there's a lot of security there. But that area of town is also probably the most secure area of all of China. It is the center of Beijing. It's next to Tiananmen Square. I was 1 block from Tiananmen Square, which you can still go in and visit and stuff, but you got to get tickets. But it also was Tiananmen Square is next to the Beijing police headquarters and all of these other government official buildings. So there's a lot of security there, but it's also the most secure area of all of China, I would imagine, or one of the most secure. So yes, there are a lot of cops. There are a lot of they're military troops, but they're not wandering around. They're standing still. They often have little velvet ropes like around them to like keep people from bumping into them. And this seems to be kind of a cultural difference that the military I saw, which are these military kind of guards of various buildings and things, they're standing like the beefeaters in Britain. They're like perfectly still. Like you get the feeling you could go and like tickle their nostril hair and they would just stand there perfectly still. And that's how they stand all day, every day. They're not intended to go around harassing people. And nobody really pays them any mind. It's not like, unless you were to try to run in a building you're not supposed to be in, I don't think they respond. Uh, they don't seem to do anything other than stop people from entering wherever. And in the U.S., and nobody really acknowledges them or pays any attention to them. And it's kind of similar in the U.S. with the fucking military in the airports and train stations with automatic rifles across their chest. Like, we have that now. There are military standing around certain areas in the United States, and we just ignore them. We don't, it's not like we walk in the area where they are and go, oh my God, oppressive state, there's a guy with a gun. Now, maybe we should be saying that, but we don't. You just get, you unless they're harassing you. Like, I find I generally don't even notice the military now. I mean, right after 9/11, I guess you noticed them, but don't even notice the military now with the automatic rifles across their chest. But I do notice cops walking around, because cops, again, will harass you for no reason. The military guys that you see at train stations and airports and stuff, their job is not to harass you for bullshit. Their job is to be the front line of defense and protect us against all the underwear bombers, right? That's what they're doing, stopping all the underwear bombs. So meanwhile, this is literally while I was in China, someone sent me this poster that I think this was in upstate New York, like small town in upstate New York. Posters up that just say, wake up to the CCP threat. This is in America. This poster says, the Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated our schools, companies, and communities. How can we protect ourselves? And they're having a meeting in Warwick, New York, which is a tiny town, to discuss how to stop the Chinese Communist Party that has infiltrated your American schools and community. The level of paranoia. This is right up there with weather balloons. The level of paranoia. Someone printed these posters. Someone plunked down money to print up posters saying the Chinese Communist Party is in your schools. Amazing. Well done, America. We're number one. Well done. And let me guess, the Kremlin is also in your yogurt. All right, so just showing you some more of the cool architecture. Oh, so this is the reason I did not go into the Forbidden City. The line to get in was roughly 900,000 people long. Like, masses of people to get in. So I don't do lines. I've never been a line guy. I don't know. If you're into lines, then you fucking do that shit. But I am not waiting in that for anything, Forbidden City or not. This shows the massive wall outside the Forbidden City, and also shows one of the multi-video camera systems they have going there, which, again, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of any police of any country. I'm not a fan of any surveillance of any country. However, I will also say that in the U.S., we are also watched. In fact, people have been convinced to put Ring cameras on the front of all of our doors. We're surveilling ourselves. We also all have phones in our pocket that are easily tracked. Our country, for a long time, I mean, maybe we've been surpassed, but for a long time had the largest surveillance system of American citizens, as revealed by Edward Snowden, of any country. Largest surveillance of their own citizens. And so, yeah, when you have cameras like that, it feels creepier than just they're quietly watching all your data, but it's probably far less, in fact, factually far less effective in surveilling people than just surveilling all their data. So the fact that we find those cameras creepy, and there's many places where there are those kind of cameras in the U.S., but also I should point out that this group of 5 or 7 cameras all on one pole, all watching one corner, is right outside the Forbidden City, one of the most, respected cultural sites in all of China. So maybe they put those cameras there because they didn't want dudes jacking off on the wall there. You never know. Maybe people were trying to turn that wall into the glory holes. You never know. There might be a reason that they actually don't want shit to go down up against the wall of the Forbidden City. I kind of understand that. All right. And I know these are common. Like, you now see these types of sculptures outside of every Chinese restaurant in America, but they're still pretty gorgeous compared to like what you'd see out of your average. This is like a random shop, This is like outside the equivalent of a 7-Eleven in the US. And they're pretty gorgeous compared to what you'd see outside of your average US bodega, which is probably a pile of dog links. I mean, you're not. Thank you. Thank you for the donation. So again, this is the type of thing we take for granted, we ignore, but these type of sculptures are far more beautiful than most of the stuff we have outside of our average bodega. It's like a dead cat. This is the, I don't know, river system or whatever it's called outside of the Forbidden City. And I took these just again to show how modern China is. This is the shopping district, and massive ads for iPhone, Gucci, Armani, just everywhere. Skechers, just huge ads. So I think the US now, mainstream media, wants you to believe that, first of all, China is a backward country where people are not allowed to behave like human beings, which is bullshit. And as you can see, it's not just that it's not backward, it's very modern. In many ways, it's technologically superior to the US. And they're buying all this American shit sold in China because hashtag capitalism. So the idea that I don't know. It's just all this propaganda. By the way, I almost forgot. This live stream is going to continue. I have plenty more to show you. This live stream is going to continue at rumble.com/Lee Camp. If you're already watching there, nothing will change. I want to talk to you about the Uyghurs and the mosques in China. I want to talk to you about more about the police. I want to talk to you about I got a lot of stuff coming up. So check all that out. I'll show you the results of the poll I put up at Lee Camp Twitter, and we'll get into that. And I have a couple other stories as well. So that's all at Lee Camp. Sorry, rumble.com/Lee Camp, rumble.com/Lee Camp. And if you want to support my show, join up at leecamp.net. That is the only way this show is supported. So please become a member at leecamp.net. You'll also get my new book, Dangerous Ideas, that comes out very soon. It's in the proofing process. It's actually being proofed. It is proofed right now. So almost done. All right. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. Just give me 1 second to do this and this and this.